Hi, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to find the equation of a line given 2 points. So I went ahead and just picked some random numbers. 3, -7 is going to be one of my points, and -2, 6 is going to be another one of my points. The very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find the slope between the 2 points. Hopefully you remember that the formula for the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to go ahead and plug those in. Y2 is going to be my 6, y1 is going to be my -7, and then x2 is going to be my -2, and x1 is going to be my +3. Unfortunately, it looks like the numbers I picked don't end up with super nice numbers, but that's okay. I ended up with a +13 on the top and -5 on the bottom, which means my slope is a -13 over 5. Now, at this point, I prefer to write things in slope-intercept form, so that's the first version of a line that I'm going to go ahead and go for. Remember what the slope-intercept of equation looks like. So it's y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope, so we already know what to plug in for m. The problem is that I don't know what the y-intercept is yet. And if you notice, the 2 points that I chose, those are not y-intercepts, so I don't get to plug those in for b. However, they are points that are on the line, so I can choose one of those points and plug it in for x and y, which means the only letter that I have left to solve for in my equation when I plug all those things in is going to be b. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in what I know the slope is. So that means now I have y equals -13/5 x plus b, because again, I don't know what b is yet. So I'm going to go ahead and choose one of my points to plug in for x and y. It really doesn't matter which one, just whichever one I like more. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the -2, 6. Not for any specific reason. I could go ahead and choose 3, -7 if I wanted to instead. So that means I end up with 6 equals -13/5 times -2 plus b. And from here, I just have to get b by itself. So I have to simplify as much as I can. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply -13/5 and -2 together. The thing that I need to remember here is that -2 is a whole number, but I can always write it as a fraction by writing -2 over 1. So then when I multiply fractions together, I just multiply straight across. So that means I actually get a +26/5 plus b on the right-hand side. And I'm going to go ahead and rewrite 6 as a fraction as well, because I'm going to want to subtract 26/5 from both sides of the equation, so I really want a common denominator. Now, I'm going to go ahead and write it as 6 over 1 so that it has a denominator to begin with, and then if you multiply the top and the bottom of that fraction by 5, you're going to get 30/5 is the same as 6. So now I can go ahead and subtract that 26/5 from both sides. So 30/5 minus 26/5 is going to be 4/5, which means b is 4/5. Now this is exactly what we were looking for. We already knew what m was because we found the slope, and now we know what b is. So we can go ahead and plug that in to my slope-intercept form of an equation. That means I end up with y equals -13/5 x plus 4/5 for my slope-intercept form, where the slope is -13/5 and we found that the y-intercept was 4/5, even though we weren't given the y-intercept to begin with. So here we've got one more part, right? We have to write it in standard form. So remember that standard form is ax plus by equals c. Now there are a couple extra things to remember here. A, b, and c are not supposed to be fractions. They're supposed to be whole numbers. And even more than that, a is supposed to be positive. So my slope-intercept form, obviously I have some fractions in there. So the very first thing that I want to do is I want to get rid of those denominators. To be able to do that, I'm going to do what's called clearing the denominators by multiplying both sides of the equation by 5. So if I do that, I have 5y equals -13x plus 4. So now the problem is that I need my x term and my y term to be on the same side. So I'm just going to add -13x to both sides. I really should have said added 13x to both sides, but if I do that, I end up with 13x plus 5y equals 4. I double check here that my x term is positive, and it is. If it wasn't, then you'd have to go ahead and multiply everything by a -1. Now here I don't need to do that, so at this point for me, I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and just box that in, and I'm done for this one. Please don't hesitate to let me know if you have more questions after watching this.